Hey there, Chad here. Thanks for joining me. This is NewsTower, and we are picking up right where we left off with our Getting Started series. NewsTower is a fun little game where you run a newspaper and you try to expand. We currently have 3 floors in our tower, and we're going to plan to build higher and higher and higher, and we can get way up here. That's the Empire State Building. And there's the river and, a hotel. And I don't see the subway anymore. I think we're blocking it. There were some folks that were complaining that once you build so high, you don't see the subway anymore, and they missed that. And I kind of get it. The little train would run by here every once in a while. And that was pretty cool. So it is Tuesday. It is 11:56 on Tuesday. We're going to want to get to Saturday in this episode. So we're going to go ahead and let it cook for now and watch and see what happens. Now, I didn't talk about this in the previous episode, but you have 2 time speed. Well, you have 3, I guess. You have pause, you have play, and then you have fast forward. You can click here and go to fast forward, and it'll just run in fast mode. But what I find helpful is just holding down tab. If I hold down tab, and you can just let it go when you're ready, that'll fast forward time for you. And you can wait until you hear that sound that we just heard, and you can pause the game. And that's what I just did. So that dot, 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 dot that we heard, you notice we got the radio signals coming in here. We have another story. So we're going to come over here and look at that story. Now, we had a story out on the West Coast, and that one's done now, and I didn't pay close enough attention to when it finished. We want to send Mildred to this next story. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like I said, I should have been paying a little closer attention, got busy talking. What else is new? There we go. But now we have a sports story out here too, and Mildred is our sports reporter. So we have to wait for her to be done, and she's got 18 hours, and it is Wednesday, so it's going to be tomorrow. This story is going to take another day, Friday. We're barely going to get this story done in time if we wait for Mildred. So I'm going to hire another reporter. We built 4 desks to start. We're going to go ahead and fill this one. And I don't have, okay, I do have an option. Sorry, I started to say I don't have an option for sports. We do have Clark here. Clark can do sports. I want to check and see what the other folks that we already have can do. So we can go to staff over here, and Mildred does sports, crime, and society. The reason I'm checking on this is I don't want him to do sports, crime, and society, and he doesn't. He does sports, politics, and entertainment. I want as much cross-training as possible across my reporters. I want to have it so I can have multiple reporters report on any particular story. And I want somewhat equal coverage across the categories, but I don't want to have like 6 reporters that do entertainment and only 1 or 2 that do sports or society, right? That could get an imbalance. So spreading out what your reporters can do is helpful. Also, the cross-training part where they don't have exactly the same skills, that just seems to be it's a strategy that I prefer to use. If you have the same 3 skills on the same reporters and you're using all 3 of those, and you could be underutilizing some other folks because they're not capable of doing those stories. I think that's not necessarily the best pattern to follow there. So let's go ahead and hire Clark for this. And we're going to put Clark on this desk right here. There we go. So we've hired Clark, and I think this is him standing there right now. Oh, that is one other thing we can talk about. You can drag and drop your people. You can put them wherever you want. And that can be important while you're playing. There will be some events that happen where you might accidentally delete a stairwell and they can't get somewhere and you need to get them out of the way or something like that. But it's wise to know that you can move them around. There's a few other things that might come up where you may desire to do that. Let's go back to the globe here and that sports story. And now we have Clark in here as well. And we're just going to drag and assign Clark. Clark does not have any sports acumen yet, right? He's at level 0 on sports. So this says it's going to take a day. It's still going to take a day when we drop him there. Mildred didn't have any sports leveling yet either. As they do stories, they will level up, and that's kind of important. In fact, we'll have to wait for her to complete her story, but we'll go look at Mildred here in a second. Now, I had mentioned that I wasn't monitoring that story to see when she finished. I may not have actually known other than having this screen open and the icon goes away. But this story, when Mildred finishes this first 18 hours of work on it, we'll get an alert over here and we'll get like a ping. It'll be like just a single sound that reminds us that this is happening over here. And it'll get a different icon where we'll know that we can assign a second reporter to a different story. So let's go ahead and I'm going to hold down fast forward. And there's that sound. And so we're paused. If you are paused and you hold down fast forward and you release it, you stay paused. So just something to know. But you heard the little bink, and then this guy showed up here as well. So we could go to the map or we can click here. We'll just click here to save a step. Okay, so Mildred finished her part of the story, and she is on her way carrying it to the typesetting desk is what this basically means. She is unavailable to work any of these stories, but Audrey is going to be able to work the politics angle of this story. And that's what we want because there's two tags up here. We're going to want Audrey to report on this. It's going to take her a day. Again, I don't think she had any skill in it. But Thursday, so mid-Friday, they should have 2 days to finish the story back in the house. That should be good. And when I say house, of course, I mean my NewsTower. Okay, unpausing and moving forward. Notice that sports icon went away. That's because he finished that story. He's probably handing it in right now. Yeah, it's on its way. And if we wait, we'll probably see him walk up here. Oh, I missed it. He's going down the stairs. He had jumped in there. Okay, we have another story happening, and it is out here. It's an economy story. Now, one thing to know is these aren't always entirely honest. It says it's an economy story, and in this case it is. Sometimes, though, you'll get some icons out here, and it's not actually what's directly on the first stage of the story anyway. It might be one of the later stages. But this is okay. Not a problem at all. Unfortunately, Audrey is tied up for another 10 hours. So I think now might be a good time to go ahead and hire that last reporter. And if you recall in the previous episode, we talked about how I thought it was unusual that the reporters were complementary. Every icon showed up exactly twice across the 4 reporters that were available initially. And so we're going to literally have perfect coverage based on those first 4. We have 2 reporters that can report on each story type, and that's great to start. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think that's typical. I guess I could go start another game and find out. I might do that, let you know what I see there, but I don't recall that happening for me in the past. This is working out perfectly. As I said, we're going to go ahead and click out here, and we will send that new reporter, Elaine, to go work on that. This story, again, has 2 tags, so that's good. We don't have any control over this one. There's nothing to select, but there you have it. This one will have 2 tags when it comes in. We are going to now set up our printer, and this only takes a minute. We're going to set it up here, and the first thing I want to do is put some lights in. There is a day-night cycle, and the lights will come on in the building. You'll see this kind of light up, and that can be kind of fun. There will be weather events. I think it's raining right now. If you unpause, it's raining a little bit. It will snow. There we go. Okay, so we have some light over here. Now we're going to build the printer, and here is the printer. So the printer has 3 basic components. The printer belt is kind of we're not going to worry about that so much. It's a piece that we will use, but it doesn't take up space in the same way that the others do. We have the printer input module, and this is where the paper gets loaded. We have the printer output module. That's where the newspapers come out. And we have the page modules. Currently, we only have 2 page modules that we can use. And at the end of the week, I'll show you where we end up getting more of those page modules. It takes a few weeks before we can actually do it, but we'll talk about that. For today, we are only going to build a newspaper, a printer that's capable of printing 1 page of news. That's what we're going to start with. Each page can hold 3 articles. Just to give you some insight into how that's going to work. And what we will do is we're going to actually build back to front so that we can have one input and one output. Well, it doesn't really matter where the output is. The newspaper just gets printed and it goes to newspaper heaven or something and gets dealt with. We're going to put the output module here. It's furthest away from the door. It's the thing that needs the least attention. A workman might need to come in here and fix it if it breaks, but other than that, that's all we need. Now we can eventually put two of these in there for now. These are the page modules, but for now we only need the one. And what I want to do is leave myself enough space that if I'm ready to put in a second one, I can. I think that does it. Looks like it's that line right there, so I should be able to fit one in between there if I need to. Yeah, that would work. Oh, I went one space too many actually, so that would be okay. This is one of those things that you can't just drag and move because it wants to put the print rail on it to move the paper. We have to actually click the move button here, and we're going to move it over one. I moved it a bunch of units. We're going to move it over 1 unit there. That should do it. And then finally, we're going to put the input module. Oh, I'm sorry. That is the input module. I screwed up already. My apologies. So instead of reworking that, what we're going to do is stash this for now. And you'll notice it left some paper on the floor because it loaded paper and we don't stash paper. We're just going to move that over here for now. Give us the opportunity to see a couple of things work here. So printer page module, that's what we want to put here. So we're going to put one here, and eventually we're going to put one here as well. Go ahead and drop that. This is what I wanted to measure. Yep, that's right where it needs to go, so that's great. Now we're going to come down to stash, where I just put the input module, and we're going to put it right there. Okay, not so bad. Now we need a door. If we look at our comfort levels, the sound and the temperature are through the roof. They're literally maxed out in this area. These folks are going to get driven crazy. Even though they have an acoustic panel, it's going to drive them crazy. So we're going to put a door, and we're going to put that door, we're going to put it here, and I'm going to put in another acoustic panel right here, and that will help tremendously. Then for the sound, there's not a whole lot we can do there. We're going to put in an air vent or two, and that will help, but ultimately we could put acoustic modules in here as well, and they help, but they don't help that much. And we've got another remedy we can use as well in the future, so we're going to leave that alone. We just don't want somebody hanging out in here. We're not going to have a worker in here constantly. The folks that have to walk through this room will be angry at us, but they will have their efficiency impacted some, but they're in here very briefly. It won't be a big factor. Now, the page, what is that? The printer belt. The printer belt, so these aren't connected, which is what incomplete printer means. We need to run a belt from area to area. And now our printer is complete. It needs paper added. When you first build it, it adds paper automatically. It puts 100 sheets in there. Sorry about that. That's on me. That's from putting the wrong thing in there. But ultimately, that's where we're at. And now we're good to go. These are the sound alerts. We're going to turn off the comfort level, so we just view the normal. Then the last thing I'm going to do here is combat the heat a little bit. And that is a wallpaper. It's called the industrial wallpaper. It counters heat. And we put that here, and at least the room won't be hot for somebody walking through there. At least it won't be as hot. We can put fans in here to help that as well. But for now, I think we're just going to leave that as is. We want to be a little careful with how much money we spend because there are a couple more things we're going to want to get soon. Now, I mentioned that the paper can only have 3 articles per page, and right now we're only going to have 1 page. So why do I have 4 stories working? Well, your stories will carry over from week to week. And there's a couple of other things we'll look at once we get to Sunday. We'll talk about how we want to line up our stories to best work for us. One other thing I want to talk about, this printer belt that's kind of interesting. The printer belt can run through walls. Let's move this tile for now, and let's move this guy over to here. So the printer belt can run through walls, and that's important because you may want to segment your printer with walls. We might want to put, I don't know, maybe an elevator shaft in here and people would be able to get out here, and we'd put a wall here and a wall here, and the elevator could potentially stop there, and they could go through doors or something. But I wanted to show you that. And then there's another trick here that's kind of interesting with printers. Not only can it go through walls, but it can also go through floors. We're going to move this one down to here if it'll fit. It will. And we can do this. And that would be perfectly acceptable. Now this is loud, so these guys aren't going to like it. We're not going to want to do that to them. But we could do that if we needed to. Actually, this is hot, not loud. Interesting. So if we're willing to deal with the heat, not worry about the sound, that would potentially be a solution. My printer in my tower that's 9 stories tall takes up 3 floors. It does a little bit of this. What I found is you can maximize your space with where you put doors by putting doors under these that end up going upwards, and that can be a little helpful, save a couple of feet of space. For now, though, we don't need this. Printer belts do not have a cost, so just removing them is perfectly acceptable. Put him back here, reconnect, and we have a complete printer once again, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and work to the end of the week. And I'm fast forwarding, waiting for a story. One should be coming in right about now. There's that sound. We'll pause, go take a look. It's a sports story. This is an interesting one. This is going to give us a reward when we finish this story. These are usually pretty good to get. What this will be, I happen to know what this is. It's kind of early script in a way. So this is a boxing match, and we're going to have a sports reporter report on that. Let's send Clark. I think that makes some sense. We'll send Clark to do this one. When he completes this, when we come back here and look at it, we will get a bonus object here. And that bonus object, I happen to know, is almost certainly going to be boxing gloves. Why would it give us boxing gloves, you might add? Well, it's kind of like a little trophy that Clark and Mildred can put near their desk, and it gives them 1 point of skill in sports reporting. So we'll do that once the story completes, and we will have our first reporting, what do they call it? Reporting accessory that improves ability once that's done. So unpausing and going forward. Another story came in. We got a lot of stories. I have run papers where you barely get 3 stories in the first week. So I'm kind of happy with this. This is a single part story for entertainment. We have one available entertainment reporter. That is Audrey. We're going to assign her to that. It's going to take her 18 hours, which means she's not going to finish until sometime Sunday. And that's okay. We kind of don't mind that right now. In fact, it maybe would be a better idea to hold off on this story until tomorrow, because if she finishes this story today or this week, by next week it's considered old news. Old news isn't as effective as new news. You can still print it. There are times when you'll have a mission not to print any of those, but it is possible that it would happen. Oh, I hadn't hit pause, and we advanced to Sunday. So this is what happens on Sunday. The the bell rings, and I'm going to hold down fast forward until 6 p.m. Okay, well, that's actually not 6 p.m. yet. 6 p.m. is 9 o'clock on the clock scale here. We could actually go a little longer, and we'll stop right there. I'm going to go ahead and assign Audrey to this story now. So she won't get it done for 18 hours, which means she won't be done with her part till Monday. My hope is that means it won't be considered old news once she actually turns in her report. And we'll see next week. Here is that sports story that was getting worked on, and here's the bonus that it gives us, and it is indeed boxing gloves. So let's go ahead and use that real quick, and then we will print our first paper. The production bonus thing, the boxing gloves, +1 buff to sports. We're just going to click it and drag it, and it shows us where it would be effective. If I put it here, it gives that reporter a +1 in sports. If I put it here, it gives that reporter +1 in sports. If I put it near the middle of them, they both benefit from it. That's what we want to do. We want everybody to benefit where we can. In fact, it doesn't have to be completely in there. It can even be below the clock there. they both get a +1 on sports reporting, and that is great. So if we look at Mildred, she now has a 1 there. This guy, Clark, he might have some skill already working. Yeah, he's 24% leveled up to the next level, so he'll soon be at level 2. Let's print our first paper. It is Sunday. It is the end of Sunday. You do not have to wait till the end of the day. I do that so that as many stories as possible wind down and are complete. The stories that have circles going around them, they're not ready for print yet. These 4 stories are currently ready for print, and that's great. 4 stories is great in our first week. We can only print 3 with a single page print module. We click on this, that's the printing, and here is the first page of our story. And here's a little board that shows us a few things. You can flip the board, but none of this will make any sense for a while in the game. We'll get to all that later. In fact, it isn't even, it has no use in the first week. As we put content in our newspaper, these tags are very important. The number of tags, their color, and the types are all factors in what happens. And basically what we can see here is this is the negative tag. Old news, for instance, is a negative tag. It will produce fewer people reading our newspaper. Each of these, though, so the bronze tags, that's what all of these are, each one of those that goes in the newspaper increases our readership by 2,500. Silver tags, 5,000, gold tags, 10,000. So that's really important. On top of that, we have a multiplier. Whatever story we put here, all of its stuff is multiplied by 3. We're going to put the story with the most tags right there. Now it doesn't affect this as much, but it affects this. This multiplier is where we get additional readers. So putting a story in here at all gives you a certain number of readers. Then the tag type is something that adds on to that. So that explains the bronze. What is this? Tag combos. Anytime a tag appears more than once on a page, it counts as a tag combo and it increases the readership. So the reason you might want to adjust tags and not just go for the most is if you can get certain combinations, that can be extremely helpful for the number of people that are going to read your paper. There are some other reasons that we'll see in the next week as to why we want certain tags in our paper at any particular time. None of those apply this first week, so we're just going to skip that for now. If we had more than one print module, we could change the page by hitting next. We could also move an article by dragging it down or up, and it would move it up or down a page for us. We can also kind of check this out. So if I had put this story with 3 tags here, we only would have 7,500 readers. Moving it up here, we're going to have 22,500. We're going to have an additional 15,000. Did I look at that right? 7,500 here. Yeah, that's what I think I said. And then here, we're going to add 15,000 additional readers. That is great. As you add pages, the page formats are a little different. The big section will be on the bottom on one of them, and there's one where it's a big section on the side and then 2 smaller ones, things like that. But each page will have a section that has a bonus. The front page, it's ×3. The other pages, it's ×2. Generally, you want to put your most valuable article here. Again, there might be some other reasons you want to tweak that a little bit, but for today, this is what we're going to go with. Now, I want to use the tags that match these. There is the society tag, there's politics, and then there's one of those secondary tags, unrest. There's several of these. I'm not sure exactly how many secondary tags there are. There are many. There's at least 6. I think there might be as many as 12. I haven't fully counted them, and they can be other than bronze. You can get up to gold levels of these. But it's a tag, it counts. So if we put this story on this page, that'll count as a combo, and we'll get bonuses. We also get bonuses for society stories. So let's do this. We're going to put a society story here, and there, I wasn't watching. I wanted to see the number go up. So let's do that again. Up 2,500, 2,500 additional readers because there's a single tag match. And then we're going to do that again. 2,500 more because of that tag match. Now, if this particular one had society or politics, politics would have been a great example. We would have had 2 tag matches and it would have gone up 5,000 for adding this story. But for now, it's just going to do that. We're going to have 37,500 readers for this first run of our newspaper at 4 cents each. We don't have a way in the first week to adjust the price of the newspaper. I have never adjusted the price of the newspaper. I've always left it at this. There will be a little slider where we can adjust it by a couple of cents. Generally, you don't want to do that, but this is what we can expect. Now, we also have to pay salaries once a week. This does not subtract out salaries yet, so we'll get to that in a second. To print the actual paper, okay, and let me do one other thing. We can also see how these tags impact if we put this back over here. So we were at 37,500. If we put this story, which doesn't match any tags, we go from 30,000 to only 32,500. So we're missing out on 5,000 readers because we didn't match that tag. There you have it. So each story gives you a certain baseline of readers, and then each tag has a factor in that, and that's how you plan your paper. As you get more pages, you get more combination possibilities, but combinations for readership is all limited to 1 page, and each page only has 3 article slots. So to print our paper, we're going to hit start, and we get the big lever. I don't know why, but the big lever has 2 stages to it, and the first stage is useless. You can go here to set. It does nothing. I don't know what that's about. That's fine. You have to pull it all the way down to go, and that will run our paper. The presses are rolling. It bounces out here and shows us the paper moving around. And there's our newspaper, 37,500 sold. These are some comments. They could be comments from stories. A lot of times it looks like it's what readers are saying. So sometimes it'll say they always have the best news, something like that. Ultimately, though, this is a good sign, 37,500. That's pretty good for the first run. I mean, it's typical. You don't get much higher than that. You can get lower than that. Let's click and we'll go to our earnings overview, and it shows us where we made our money. So with the newspaper price, 4 cents, subscriptions and loose sales, 37,500 times 4 cents each is $1,500. We had no ads. We had no hidden agendas. We didn't have an option for that. We're going to see that here coming up. We have no prestige earned because we didn't have the ability to earn any prestige this time. So that's not something to worry about. We're going to click and go to the expenses page. Expenses are almost completely our labor. So that's how much we spent in labor. Okay, and then that is it for our first week, but we do have one more step that's going to happen as we start our next week, and I want to show you that here. So we're going to leave our recap. This is our city map, and it looks a little daunting at first. Everything is grayed out for the most part. This is our paper right here. Clicking on it will do absolutely nothing. There are other buildings that you'll see here that we can highlight, and we're going to click on one of those in a minute. I'm going to call out 3 immediately. So there's the Empire State Building. This is where the mayor lives, or at least where he works from. There is the Mafia Hideout. This is where you get mob missions. And then there is the Lowe's Jersey Theater. I think that's Lowe's. Could be Lou's, I guess. This is where the high society folks hang out, and they will give you missions as well. So those 3 buildings will give you missions, and clicking on them simply shows you who's in the building. And right now we don't even attach to any of those. We have to build out through neighborhoods to get to these different buildings. Initially we have 3 options of where we can build, and each of those neighborhoods has 2 possible subscribers, and I think each subscriber actually represents 1,000 subscriptions. So if we click on these, what we'll see is there are tags that we have to match, and if we match these tags, we will unlock that neighborhood. This particular neighborhood, Bayonne, wants a society article, and they want entertainment article. This is telling us we have one that's already in the works. So that's just what this icon here means. Hey, we've got one on the way. That's great. We might want to go that direction. As we build out, when we connect to a building, not including the Mafia Hideout, the Empire State Building, or the Jersey Theater, We get some things that we can buy with influence. Let's take a look at one of the important ones. This right here, the Industry City Harbor. If I click on it, when we unlock this building, we have the ability to unlock a big globe, which gives +2 to telegraphers. We have some things we can unlock for the typesetters, for the assemblers, but here's the big one. This is where we can get more page modules. We can print up to 5 pages after unlocking these. That's actually a lot of prestige points. We're not going to be able to do this in one day. But we will be able to unlock this one and have a 3rd page, 4th page, 5th page. Similarly, you have the radio tower down here. It unlocks additional telegraph stations, up to 6. There are other very important ones. This one building here, I always get this backwards. These are both Neck Mine and Neck Factory. We're going to go to this one, Throgs. This is where you get the elevator. The elevator has to be unlocked before you can get it. And it takes a while to build your network up to here. Some other things, there's an ad agency. This is where we can get a sales desk to start doing ads. There is the Photography Academy. This is where we can eventually hire photographers, or it will allow us to hire photographers. We don't hire them from here. It gives us the ability to hire them once we've unlocked it. Also, it unlocks their bonuses, is what these would be that we can unlock. Another important one is Cartography Association. Some stories, they're going to want maps, and we're going to have a cartographer to do that. Another important one is this one, the Graphic Workshop. It allows us to get an illustrator. Same thing. Those are all different worker types that we eventually may want to hire. Oh, and a very important one that can be easily overlooked initially, and we are going to go in this direction pretty quickly. The police station allows us to unlock a security guard. Why do we need a security guard, you might ask? Well, we're going to end up doing mafia missions. And if you fail mafia missions, sometimes they don't like that, and they send people to bust up your equipment. When you have a security guard, it mitigates that. He actually throws them out of the building. And when your security guard is high enough level, he throws 2 or 3 of them out at a time, and you have no worries because your security guard's got it handled. Don't need him right away, though, but we do have to pick which of these neighborhoods we want to build into first. From a story perspective, there's 6 story types, and each one is represented in one of these 3 initial neighborhoods we can go to. So, however we want to go that direction is fine. Really what we want to focus on is what are the more advanced things we want to get to. Well, I think that the printer module is important. So starting to move in this direction isn't bad. With that said, you can get there here too, 1, 2, 3 steps away from getting there. And I should explain how these work. When we select a neighborhood and say select district, this neighborhood will activate if we match a tag in the newspaper this week. So when I say select district, what I'm doing is saying I'm going to have some of these tags in my newspaper. If I have all the tags, it completely unlocks the neighborhood and I get prestige. If I only match one of them or less than all of them, what will happen is I will have activated that neighborhood and I can get to the next neighborhoods. So to get to this neighborhood out here, you've got several things you have to do first. A building is not a neighborhood. Once you attach to a neighborhood next to a building, it unlocks that building for you. So if we were to go this direction and want to get to the stadium, we'd have 1 week. We'd have to do a story of this type. 2nd week, a story of whatever they're asking for, which will probably be different. There you have it. Now, I think they're all going to show some symbols like this, but it's not complete, like this guy. He doesn't show 6. He shows only 2 of the symbols, but there will be 6 different things that we have to complete because there's 6 people there. But we do 1 here, we do 1 here. We now have access to the stadium, and we can select these neighborhoods. So to get to this building out here, for instance, you've got 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, minimum of 4 weeks. And we probably won't even be able to get these tags that it requires for quite a while. But at least 4 weeks if we were to strictly go straight for this building. Incidentally, this is a building that allows you to add traits to your workers. And that's something we will cover eventually. For this first week, it often makes sense to go ahead and start building so that you can get to the Mafia building, because Mafia will give you missions that you can earn extra money, and that extra money turns into extra floors, and extra floors turns into more reporters and more paper turns into more money. So it isn't a bad idea to get to that quickly. The mafia ones have a negative. If you fail it, they sometimes will send mobsters. You usually know ahead of time, but they will get angry. They will send mobsters. The mayor, if he gets angry, he just kind of disses you a little bit. I don't think you take a hit at all. And the society folks, it's kind of the same. My impression is the society missions are the most pleasant to do. The mayor's a lot of times the mayor is just trying to get himself reelected. So I think maybe there's a little bit of a play on your conscience there, depending on how you feel about politicians. And then the mob is the mob, right? It's self-interest as well. They often want you to print stories that are lies or things like that, but so does the mayor. He wants you to print propaganda, and propaganda is a negative tag. So there's things you have to consider. You have to kind of pick a tactic or strategy and decide how you want to work for that. Because it's the way I typically go, I'm going to go here so that I'm able to open up the Mafia house next turn. We could go here and then to this neighborhood and open up the mayor first, and there's nothing wrong with that strategy either. But I also want to start getting down here to this building, to the police station, to the ad agency, to the photo academy. So we're gonna go here first. So I'm gonna click that, click select district, and that's all there is. Now, once we've unlocked these buildings, well, as soon as we unlock one of them, but particularly once we've unlocked all three, often we will have the ability to select, there'll be another icon down here, we will be able to select the mission for one of those special interest groups. And it works basically the same way. You'll click it and it'll say, oh, you need to print 3 stories on crime this week, and I'll pay you an extra $1,000. If we accomplish that, that will go into our report that we saw the very previous page here. One of the things on there it said was like hidden agenda. That's what that was referring to, is these things we might do for these 3 factions. So we're going to go towards the Mafia first, and that's it. I'm going to click this to continue, and we are on to our second week. I think that makes for a good stopping point today. You know what? There is one more thing we're going to cover. This is flashing right now, and we need to talk about that. We are dangerously low on paper, so I'm going to order paper. And what will happen when I order paper? It asks me how much I want to order. I'm going to order $600 worth. And what will happen is we're not paused, so this little truck is going to come. It's going to stop right here, and it's going to plop out 6 boxes of paper. Right there. Now, we can allow this to sit here as long as we want. It will not hurt anything. Nobody will steal it. But eventually we need to put the paper in the bathrooms and in the printer and things like that. So we're going to do that. This is why we would, I'm going to pause it. This is why we would hire a resupply person. They will come and pick up these crates and deliver them to where they need to go, and we don't have to mess with that. So we can put in quite a bit of paper in the printer, and we're going to go ahead and do that. You'll notice our telegraphers need paper as well. So that's something to consider. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and buy a little more paper. You know what? I'll wait until we actually need it. It will let us know when we physically need it. So at some point we will do that. For now, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode. We'll come back and we'll continue through, and I'm going to start kind of more playing and less guiding, and I'll talk about the decisions I make and explain where I expect this to go with how my tower will build out. I did mention that we will rearrange this entire thing more than once in its lifetime. The first one will probably be once we get to probably 4 floors. We'll want to start hiring a few more people, and we'll want a few other things going on. But for now, I thank you for your time, and until next time, fair travels.